Good evening and welcome to News Night. In the next 60 minutes here, health experts and practitioners demand that government treats vaccine shortage challenge as a national health emergency as they insist newborn babies are the risk of death while the wait for fresh supplies continue.
If a young child aged below, say, 6 months gets whooping cough, it can cause death.
It is quite serious. As a nation, we should take this as a public health emergency.
We have details plus tell you about the fear of possible closure of schools in Tamale North as a result of measles outbreak. Also tonight, Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu declares no one can stop the Electoral Commission from laying its proposed constitutional instrument currently dividing opinions.
No speaker has the right to also say that I will not allow government business to be transacted. No speaker has that authority, period. I would also say I don't see how the minority can say that we will if you say we'll not allow it, yes.
Details of happenings on that. Also, NPP MPs taunted former President Mahama after he launched another bid aimed at taking the presidency.
But Ghanaians know what John Mahama did for Ghana. And I don't think he's bringing any new ideas. That's the old story that he's come to repeat.
He was a vice president. He became 3 months or so or less president. He became a 4-year president. What did we see?
Details of that.
And in business, China likely the kingmaker in current discussions for Ghana's cancellation of its debt.
And in sports, we hear from Mohamed Polo, who says Ghana football has lost its identity.
And later, we won the election and we will prove it to Nigerians. Labour Party's Peter Obi vows to prove in court that his supporters were robbed of victory.
This election, as you know, did not meet the minimum standard expected of a free, transparent, credible, fair election. It will go down as one of the most controversial elections ever conducted in Nigeria. We won the election and we will prove it to Nigeria.
We also have live updates from a press conference currently being addressed by Atiku Abubakar. We'll also take you to the princess town of Akatachi to meet the priest who communicates with crocodiles.
There she is. But finally, bingo! Chicken dinner.
We have that and more in tonight's edition of Newsnight. Please do also join us with your thoughts and comment. It's via WhatsApp 055-1111-997. We are live on Facebook on myjoyonline.com, also on Joy 99.7 FM and Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. I am Emefa. Apawu. We have details after this. Thanks for staying with us here on Newsnight. Let's dig in now. And tonight there's pressure on government from experts and health practitioners on the need to secure the 3 essential vaccines for babies currently in short supply. The Ghana Health Service had already indicated it expects supplies in a week's time, but there are fears there could be dire consequences for newborn babies. Already experts are asking government to declare a national health emergency regarding the situation. We can hear from child health specialist Professor Janet Nikwe. She's been detailing why this presents a serious challenge for the nation.
Perhaps mothers up there are not going for their immunizations. And if you make it difficult for people, then the dropout rate will become higher. And therefore, these diseases will spread. There are no alternatives. We've become used to having these vaccines available, and the system has been running really well. So I really don't understand why this has happened.
No problem for.
I think it's very serious, and I hope everything is done to fix the problem. The diseases that affect also young babies, you haven't talked about, but the diphtheria vaccine and also the whooping cough vaccine is very important to get those at the right time, because if a young child aged below, say, 6 months gets whooping cough, it can cause death. Whooping cough is a very serious infection. Worldwide, we haven't got rid of it because sometimes you find an adult with a cough who has a mild form of whooping cough, but if a young baby gets it, the cough is serious and they can't breathe because of the cough. So that's a vaccine that must be given to young babies at the right time.
While in the Tamale North constituency, residents are already battling a measles outbreak that started prior to the shortage. But Member of Parliament for the area, Alhassan Essuini, fears the situation could get worse.
the minister must appear before the House to let us know where we are at as far as, government's efforts, when it comes to dealing with this outbreak is concerned. It is important that as stakeholders, we know where we are and what is expected of all of us, including parents and, health practitioners and all those in that chain, so that we can nib it in the bud.
Well, let's get to the area, and my colleague with our affiliate station Radio Justice, Mumuni Irafa Yunus, will paint a picture to us about the true situation on the ground when it comes to the Tamale North constituency. Mumuni, what's really the situation? You visited a number of facilities. Tell us what the situation is there.
Yes, that's correct. I visited a number of facilities in the constituency. For instance, I was at the Kaupohene Health Center, where my checks confirmed that they started receiving patients who had symptoms of measles as far back as November 2022, and they have continued to report such cases or to report such cases. They tell me, my sources there tell me that because they do not really have the facilities to test to confirm whether these cases are actually measles, they take samples and forward it to Accra. But unfortunately, it takes months. For instance, we are told that suspected cases, samples of suspected cases that were taken as far back in December have not been confirmed as at now. So the situation is quite worrying because they are unsure if they are dealing with measles cases or they are dealing with other issues. But I was at Taha community this afternoon, and I spoke to a number of residents who have told me that within that community, families have reported that they have suffered such symptoms. I spoke to one gentleman, Salim Mohammed, who told me he was on admission at the Tamale Teaching Hospital for 3 days because he had been diagnosed the measles.
Well, the MP for the area we've been interacting with fears it could lead to a closure of schools, amongst others. You've been interacting with health officials. What really have they been saying about it?
Health officials are actually tight-lipped on this matter, except for the few personnel who are actually working within these facilities who are worried because they really know the situation on the ground. They fear the situation could become even worse because they really do not know what they are dealing with. Their test results are not coming back, and there are no vaccines within or around the Tamale metropolis in general, not just in the Tamale North constituency. And so they are worried that the situation could even get worse. We haven't reported or we haven't heard of any reported deaths yet, but these health officials fear that we may get to a situation where we'll start reporting casualties.
Okay. Mumuni, thank you so much. Mumuni Irafa Yunus is with our affiliate station Radio Justice. They're giving us the situation in the area. Well, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, they want the situation treated as a national health emergency. Here's Perpetual Furiampofo, president of the association, speaking on PM Express last night.
The kind of fluids that are given to these babies, they should make sure that it is safe, it is wholesome, and that if children have to be given any water, for us as nurses, we educate them. Breastfeed, just exclusive breastfeeding till 6 months. But not all parents are able to do that. Not all mothers are able to do that. And they end up giving them water and all of that. They should make sure that if they have to give these babies water, it is wholesome water, because if they don't have all the OPV and the BCG at birth, we should protect them. It is quite serious, and as a nation, we should take this as a public health emergency and get these drugs from wherever we can get them, so that the EPI of the Ghana Health Service can deploy them, and our nurses, our community health nurses, our public health nurses, stationed all over the country, can actually give the vaccines to the babies.
That's Perpetual Friampofo, president of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Well, there's meanwhile region controversy surrounding the 72 million cedis released to the Ministry of Health for the purchase of these vaccines for these babies. We've been hearing from the National Health Insurance Authority on this. Oswald Isuamensa yesterday telling us that these monies have been released to the Ministry of Health, the Ghana Health Service, for that matter, for that to happen. But the Director General of the Ghana Health Service has assured that the country would take delivery of some of the vaccines in the next 2 weeks. He insists that he is unable to speak just yet because there's nothing more to add to it, but they are hoping that within 2 to 3 weeks they will be able to get this. But the ranking member on the Health Committee, Kwabena Mintah Kando, insists that the Ghana Health Service must account for the money.
Government has been negligent. You don't understand what actually the ministry, the officials of the Ministry of Health are doing. You invite them and they are not able to convince you. So we have asked them to go back because the reasons they advanced before us are untenable, and so they should go and get back to us properly.
Well, that's the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, Kwabena Mintah Kando. Like I was saying, the Ghana Health Service insists that we will get these vaccines in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We've been hearing from experts also on this, on the dangers that it poses to babies that have been born over the period. This is a matter that will continue to follow. We know that the Health Committee also expecting that the Health Minister will appear before them and answer questions on this. We'll be following it closely and get you more. But I'll take you to Parliament now. And Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu says not even the Speaker of Parliament can stop the Electoral Commission from laying its controversial constitutional instrument in the House. The minority are up in arms against the EC over some regulations in the CI, which they say will disenfranchise eligible voters and rig the election for the governing NPP. But the EC debunked these assertions by the minority when Chairperson Jean Mensah appeared in Parliament. She actually explains why it is important the CI must be laid and passed.
It is important to rehash that the use of the Ghana card as the sole means of identification will ensure and guarantee the credibility and integrity of our register and our elections. It will prevent the enrollment of minors on the register. It will prevent foreigners from being registered to vote, and it will eliminate the guarantor system, which is prone to abuse and which promotes conflict and violence. Additionally, it will prevent costly, tedious follow-up exercises by the district registration review committees established nationwide. Finally, Mr. Speaker, by using the Ghana card as the sole source of identification, the EC will be conforming to Regulation 7.1 of the legal instrument passed by Parliament, the National Identity Register Regulations, LI 2111, which states that the national identity card shall be used for a number of transactions where identification is required, including the registration of voters.
But responding to the EC at a news conference yesterday, Minority Leader Casey Olatoforsen disagreed that the guarantor system should be omitted.
There are three things that are not negotiable. First, we believe that the guarantor system must be added because the Ghana card alone cannot be used as proof of citizenship. So it is obvious that Article 42 talks of proof of citizenship, but doesn't talk of using an ID card as proof of citizenship, one ID card as proof of citizenship. So we insist that the guarantor system is time-tested. It is proven that obviously in the case of myself, I did not get to choose to be a Ghanaian. I was born Ghanaian, and my parents should be able to take me to registration center and vouch for me to indicate that since they are Ghanaians and they have evidence that they are Ghanaians, their son also qualifies to be a Ghanaian.
Well, the Majority Leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, begs to differ on this, and he says nothing will stop the process. He explained that they will continue to dialogue to reach a consensus, but neither the Speaker nor the minority can prevent the laying of the document.
The Speaker has no business in what business is transacted in Parliament. I wouldn't say that at all, except to say that No speaker has the right to also say that I will not allow government business to be transacted. No speaker has that authority, period. We'll continue further engagement with the minority, just so that, I guess, people may talk from very informed perspectives and not resort to sheer shenanigans to confuse Ghanaians. But having said that, I would also say I don't see how the minority can say that we will if you say we will not allow it. Yes, the Constitution provides you the way, if you don't like it, to oppose it, and it's established in Article 11 of the Constitution. This is a legislative instrument. It's a regulation. It says, Article 11, Clause 7 provides, any order, rule, or regulation made by a person or authority under a power conferred by this Constitution or any other law shall be laid in Parliament, be published in the Gazette on the day it is laid before Parliament, and C, come into force at the expiration of 21 sitting days after being so laid, unless Parliament, before the expiration of 21 days, annuls the order, rule, or regulation by votes of not less than 2/3 of all members of Parliament. That is the constitutional provision, and that is the path established for us under the rule of law. It is not about physicalities.
I'm bringing our correspondent shortly on this, but the majority leader is of the view that the NDC, they are simply opposing new ideas which improves the country's electoral system.
Once the CI comes into operation, it's going to be continuous on daily basis. So you turn 18, people are saying that they were talking about people going to queue for what? If the whole is a year-long activity, how are you going to queue? And that if you go there and you have to sleep there and so on and so forth. They live in the Old Testament period. This is ushering us into a New Testament. And you still will want to kill ram to pacify God. Jesus Christ has come to redeem us. And from hence, we live by grace. Ghana card is the one that is going to guarantee continuous registration. The new CI is the one that is going to guarantee continuous registration.
Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwekwa Sante joins us on the line. Is monitoring affairs or event at that press conference held by the majority leader.
Must necessarily vote. Please, if you read the law, don't invent it, don't invert it, and don't add to it.
This must have definitely attracted a lot of reactions, but let's talk about when exactly the committee of the whole report will be debated. Kwekwa.
The last time the EC were in Parliament, the majority side were concerned that this report might delay, and they wanted the Speaker to give them some clear timeline that this committee of the whole report to come. It will serve as a precursor to the EC laying the document, if they are allowed to do so at all. The Speaker said he wanted to give the clerks much time to be able to do a good job on putting together the report. And because the Speaker is the chairman of this committee of the whole, he is the one who is supposed to sign for it to come before Parliament. Ordinarily, we're expecting that it will come before the House today. It did not. But if you look at the order for tomorrow, it's quite a packed day. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will be in Parliament to answer some questions. And the last time he was unable to do so. So it does not appear that tomorrow this committee of the whole report will come. And so the expectation is that next week, much of Parliament business will focus on that. But also next week is when President Akufo-Addo comes before Parliament to present the State of the Nation address. So there are concerns, especially on the majority side, that there are so many activities that may hinder the ability of the EC to go ahead and lay this CI. But they are hoping that in between all these events, the Electoral Commission will be able to lay this CI.
Okay, well, this is an event that we are monitoring closely, but in all this also, you've been engaging MPs and their views following the Mahama campaign launch and the comments and the concerns that he raised during that campaign. What has been the reaction in Parliament?
It's divided usually along political party lines, while the NDC MPs, some of them who were in Parliament today, say that the kind of things former President Mahama has said are visionary. Their colleagues on the MPP side beg to differ, the MPP side. I've been speaking to some NPP MPs who say that the former president, has not said anything new. He is just regurgitating the same argument which Ghanaians rejected in 2016 and 2020.
John Mahama coming back is an old story. It's not a new story that Ghanaians should be thinking about. John Mahama is saying that he's come to repair Ghana. Actually, no one from the MPP is saying that Ghana is not facing the challenge. We know we have economic crisis. But I have already been saying that it's better for Ghanaians to be in MPP government than to be an NDC. John Mahama is telling Ghanaians that he is coming to change Ghana. We are all in this country when John Mahama, as a president, couldn't even pay teachers' allowance. But Ghanaians know what John Mahama did for Ghana. And I don't think he's bringing any new ideas. That's the old story that he's come to repeat. He has an opportunity to rule this country for 8 years. Just 4 years. He couldn't manage Ghana, providing 24 lights for Ghana. He couldn't. And today he's telling us that he's bringing a new ideas. What ideas again John Mahama is bringing to Ghana? Come and repeat the doomsaw? Scrap the nurses' allowance, teachers' allowance?
It's not a new phase. It's an old wadi, as you say, that we know. And so I think, and it's not news because everybody knows that NDC at this point believed and hoped that it's only John Mahama that can salvage their party for them, and their hope was banked on him. So clearly, it's not news to us for us to be surprised that John Mahama has once again launched his campaign.
But as NDP, are you afraid? Are you afraid that John Mahama is coming?
Afraid of John Mahama?
Maybe he's the biggest impediment against you breaking the 8.
I mean, what? You see, he was a vice president. He became a 3 months or so or less president. He became a 4-year president. What did we see?
Well, you have the MP for Sifia Kontombra, Alex Tete, and MP for Doma East, Paul Chumberima. We can hear from the former president, Mahama. He's saying that the country is at a crossroad and requires a bold and decisive leadership capable of rescuing the country from what he describes as the clueless NPP government.
The unthinkable has happened, and our country today is broken on all fronts. Ghana is bankrupt. We are saddled with debts we simply cannot pay. And we have suffered the global humiliation of defaulting on our debts and being downgraded by all credit rating agencies to the lowest level ever seen in our history. Our economy is in the worst ever shape, with suffering and pain on an unprecedented level. Hyperinflation and ever-increasing price of basic items, including food products, have all combined to inflict unbearable pain on millions of Ghanaian households. Parents are being forced to make the choice between seeking prompt health care for their sick children or providing meals with their meager resources for their families. Our middle class stands the real risk of being wiped out on the back of an obnoxious debt restructuring program. The poor who depend on the middle class for employment and sustenance are on their own and uncertain of their fate in the future. Our aged pensioners and the elderly have not been spared either. In the past few weeks, they have been compelled to stage public manifestations outside the Ministry of Finance in defense of their livelihoods, even in this elderly state. Who would have thought that Ghana will come to a juncture like this, where a government would mete out such shabby treatment to our senior citizens, whose only crime is that they put their life savings in what is considered the safest financial instrument in the world, government bonds. We are at this most depressing phase in our history, where our economy has been destroyed because of the systematic mismanagement, misguided and clueless policy choices and the incompetence of President Nana Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia. While our people struggle to keep their heads above water, government officials continue to exhibit high levels of greed, corruption, arrogance of power, dishonesty, blatant state capture, and conflict of interest.
That's former President John Dramani Mahama at that campaign launch in the Volta region, Sogah to be precise. And we are getting ready for the 66th anniversary celebrations in the Volta region. But whilst we are there, the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, has been interacting with my colleague Mamavi Owusu-Abuaji on preparedness in the Volta region to host the entire country for the Independence Day celebration. George, I'm sure you're getting ready for that.
Definitely, we won't miss that for anything in the Volta region, actually.
Yeah.
To eat my abobitadi.
You visit Volta and then you experience Ghana.
And I won't miss my abobitadi.
Abobitadi, yeah. Okay, let's hear from the regional minister.
The Volta Youth Resource Center is the venue for the 66th Independence Day anniversary, and it's going to be held obviously in the Volta region, and this is where it's going to happen. It's a 5,000 seating capacity resource center, and we understand that this is the second phase of it and already is 90% complete.
But when the president gave us the opportunity to host the 66th independence anniversary, we felt that was the best option that we had to host it. So quickly the Minister of Youth and Sports and National Youth Authority were instructed by the president to make sure that the center was completed. So we started not many weeks ago, and we are happy about the pace of work. We'll still have some work to do. Next week will be very busy, and the preparations are going on. The committees are working very hard, and we're hopeful that we'll put up a great show come 6th of March.
Tuesday, every day, if you're my bad days, Monday.
You know, it's a good time to just take time off. Listening to Mama Owusu-Abuaji and the excitement in her voice talking about the Volta region, it tells you that it's time for us all to head to the Volta region to experience Volta. And once we experience Volta, you definitely will experience Ghana. And I'm taking George along with me.
I mean,
this weekend is a long weekend.
The serene, it's something else. The
It's
hotels,
the
you know, it's something else, and you don't want to miss the Volta region visit for anything.
Everything about
you
the
know,
Volta region.
especially there are Bobitadi.
It's not just about Bitadi. This one, the way you're going, it looks like there's more to this about Bitadi that you're talking about. But what's in business, George?
Well, Emefa, China likely to be kingmaker in Ghana's request for debt reprofiling and possible debt cancellation by its international creditors. And government announces plans to secure certification to help in refining more gold locally for exports. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, China is likely to have the final say, or so what some are describing as the kingmaker in reprofiling of Ghana's debts or possible cancellation by these international creditors. Now, this is what Joy Business has picked up from persons with some understanding of the current negotiations. There is more in this report.
Some of the country's international creditors have argued that it is critical China comes on board to fully participate in Ghana's debt exchange program. However, due to the recent stance of the country, which some have described as foot dragging, some of these creditors in Europe now want to wait for the outcome of Ghana's negotiation with China. This is because some of these European countries that are members of the Paris Club and G20 don't want to cancel Ghana's debt for it to be used to service China's debt. This development has resulted in some being worried that this foot dragging could affect efforts to get these creditors' commitments on time for an IMF deal. There is also a push for all the international creditors to be treated the same. So if China decides not to participate in any possible debt cancellation, then the other countries could also get out. Some have argued that based on these developments, China indeed will be the kingmaker in all these ongoing negotiations. But should Ghana be happy about the recent comments by the IMF that it is just looking out for commitment to participate in this program rather than firm agreements about debt cancellation?
And that is the Business Desk report. Now, meanwhile, finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amwa, has described the latest development as a good one for Ghana.
Reaching a deal with the IMF was going to be difficult. So if we are now hearing from the IMF that yes, indeed, creditors must come clear on their position on the debt, but still, that notwithstanding, the IMF can still give us a good case, then I think it is indeed a great relief that yes, the creditors matter, but then the IMF, that is at the center or core of all this discussion, is still considering and is very interested in getting Ghana to get the deal come on board so we can put the economy back on track. So it is indeed a good relief. It is more of a flexible one if you are considering, because in all these discussions, it is the IMF that is providing that level of assurance. And if you look at what we are going to get, we are seeking the funds or the support from the IMF. On the other hand, IMF and the World Bank is not the only creditor nation to Ghana. We are talking about a debt restructuring where there must be burden sharing.
Finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amwa. Now, government has announced plans to secure international certification to support more gold refineries in the country for export. The move, according to government, will help improve revenue for the country. The Lands and Forestry Minister, that is Samuel Jinapor, disclosed this at a news conference in Accra when the ministry actually tried to explain more development in the area. Meanwhile, the minister has been given more details about some mining exploration deals set to commence this year.
There is Apawu North, which is Newmont, isn't it? Apawu North is coming on stream, and that is going to be surface mining. Cardinal Resources in Talensi in the Upper East is in respect of gold. That is actually very much on stream because they are far advanced. They are already building tailings dams and the rest. And I believe that sometime next year they will pour the first gold. Yes. There's also lithium in Ewoya. Lithium in Ewoya in the Infansiman municipality. That I have to report on with caution, because these resources, these lithium resources, these green minerals, lithium, phosphate, cobalt, all of them, we are having a different structure, different arrangement in terms of their exploration. We want to jettison the previous arrangement we had for gold and others where all the minerals were mined and exported in their raw form. And so we are still in negotiations and discussions with the parties involved to find.
Samuel Jinapor is Lands and Forestry Minister. Now, telecoms giant MTN has announced that it is expanding its national roaming program to other networks, as well as the successful nature of the program. Now, this follows what MTN describes as the success of its pilot program with Vodafone in the Volta region. It has also reached an agreement with Airtel Tigo for a 4th-month run on this national roaming program on pilot basis. Now, this will allow Airtel Tigo customers to roam on MTN network in selected locations across the country. Now, a former managing director of APSA Kenya, that is Jeremy Awori, has assumed office as the Chief Executive of EcoBank Group. Mr. Awari is taking over from the current boss of EcoBank, that is Ade Ayemi, who retired at the end of last year. Jeremy Awari brings with him over 25 years of experience in the banking industry. Now, prior to joining APSA, Jeremy served in leadership roles in Standard Chartered Bank across the Middle Eastern Africa. Now, board chairman of EcoBank Group, Alian Nyasho, in an earlier interview, maintained that they are committed to putting in place the necessary transition measures for the new boss of the EcoBank Group.
Is basically to ensure continuity, from what has been achieved, by the current CEO. That's pretty clear. But then equally, this is an institution, right? EcoBank is an institution, and it's our duty, whether within the management and the board, to ensure that at any point in time, right, there is a contingency plan, or success is actually basically built, with men's. and not just one, many of them, and really more like in the long term, this is a situation where we have to ensure that the banks still have pool of talent that actually can step in if any role became vacant. But yes, we agree with you. We are very mindful of that, and it's our duty to make sure that transition is as smooth as possible.
And that is the group board chairman of EcoBank, Alien Kosho, actually talking about the new MD of EcoBank who is taking over from today. That is Jeremy Awori. He's the new group MD of EcoBank. That is the group, ETI. Emefa, interesting. 11 years of oil discovery. There are several arguments about whether we've gotten enough. A lot has been done. And when it comes to the current oil production in this country, are there any things that are threatening its existence going forward? And that is what we are talking about on PM Express Business Edition to guide.
Who's our guest?
Well, he's called David Ampofo. Oh. You know David Ampofo? Former time with David, host Channels Communications. He's now the chief executive of the Ghana Upstream Petroleum Chamber. And we're going to discuss the industry development in terms of oil exploration, the current challenges going forward, what can be done to improve upon the fortunes of the oil industry with the chief executive of this chamber, that is Mr. David Ampofo. 9 p.m. on Joy News and all our social media platforms.
With George Riafe. Thank you so much, George, for business. And we'll catch PM Express Business Edition tonight at 9 p.m. for that great discussion. Now, conservation group Arocha Ghana says it has evidence to suggest that the Minerals Commission has given out several licenses in 2022 and 2023 that straddle critical water bodies, including Ankobra, Pra, Tano and Ofin basins. President Akufo-Addo in April 2021 mapped out what government describes as the red zones for mining, strictly banning the activities of mining in or near water bodies as well as in forest reserves. Well, about a week ago and just recently, also just yesterday, the minister, 2 days ago, I think so, the minister for the Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, also mentioned that he expressed satisfaction with the enforcement of the directive, while adding that most of the river bodies are beginning to regain its integrity. We heard from his deputy also, George Mirikuduka, some weeks ago on this. We can hear from the minister on this.
I think every Ghanaian who will be, taking some time to check the river bodies of Accra will attest to the fact that there is some improvement. There's no two ways about that. And indeed, the best source of validating that is the records of the Water Resources Commission, which is the government agency responsible for recording the turbidity levels of the river bodies of our country. And the report I have, the information I have, the data I have from the Water Resources Commission suggests that some of our river bodies are improving.
Well, my colleague Erastus Osaridonko has done extensive work in this regard, and Love News Investigations have reviewed that recent footage of the river Ankobra regaining its ecological integrity is a mirage, as Shanfan operators mine directly on the riverbed at various sections close to Axim and Prisia Himang in the western region. Listen.
Rising northeast of Sefioso in the western north region, the river Ankobra flows about 190 kilometers south to the Gulf of Guinea. About 2 weeks ago, pictures of a green-looking river Ankobra taken at the Sangoma estuary in Axim took over social media. The taglines indicated government's illegal mining fight was gaining ground with the clearing of the river. We set out on a fact-finding mission on the flow path of the Ankobra. After hours on the road, we hit the coastal town of Axim. We proceeded to Sangoma or Ankobra town, where the river meets the sea. This is where pictures of the green Ankobra were taken. Instead of a green-looking river, we saw a dirty-looking Ankobra polluting the green sea. Residents here share how they feel about assertions that the Ankobra has regained its former glory.
Why is it that they are saying something which is untruthful to the nation, to the public. Because they should have tell the public the truth that the river is totally bad, but it is because of the high tide of the sea that is coming through the river water. So that one looks a little bit clear, and they took that picture. So I feel very bad.
Green out to March. April, May. Next to Swiss from Masana, yellow one, Abba. Next year from January, February, March. Still so yellow no, I don't know. Integrams one more down yet.
I am sitting in the middle of two great water bodies. To my left is the sea, and to my right is the river Ankobra. Behind me is the estuary. This is where the two meet. Now there is this confusion over whether the Ankobra is clearing and it is green, and we've seen some green videos of the Ankobra right from this point. Those pictures were taken. Now let me explain to you. At high tide, the sea here, which is green, washes over. All this place gets flowing with seawater, and it washes over the Ankobra to that end. The sea is green. The river Ankobra is yellowish now. It covers it. The whole place is green. Beautiful, isn't it? That is what we expect the river Ankobra to look like. Unfortunately, it doesn't look that way. This is the real color of the Ankobra as we speak. Polluted right from the source. It ends this controversy. But if anybody is serious about this, this is a serious pollution matter. Because as you look at the estuary, even close to the sea, you can see the color of the sea from this point right up there, as far as the drone can see, turning yellow in the color of the Ankobra. Until we see a high tide, which they say is 2 hours away, which will wash the sea green water over the Ankobra, the situation is a highly polluted Ankobra, which is now polluting the sea.
Reporting.
That's my colleague Erastus Asare Donkos report there. And we can hear from Arocha Ghana on this. Darrell Bosso is the deputy director of the group. He says it is incomprehensible why the Minerals Commission is issuing licenses alongside and across rivers when the devastation of gold mining is now so clear.
Well, the buffer zone policy is very clear as to distances where mining can happen. And then because of the onslaught of Galamsey as well, we saw the president coming out in April 2021 indicating that rivers will be red zones. They even indicated how far away activities should happen. But if you see the Minerals Commission then go ahead to even allocate concessions, that does not differentiate between these buffer areas and all of that. That is very worrying.
Well, let's do sports now. And Musbao is in the studio. Hello, Musbao.
Hello, Emefa. Well, it's Mohamed Polo. He's been speaking a lot about Ghana football. He's appeared to be very concerned. A few days ago, he was at the presidency where he handed a 5-year plan for the development of Ghana football to President Akufo-Addo. And following that, my colleague Nathan Alato got in touch with him, and he's been bemoaning about the fact that Ghana football has lost its identity.
I think what I'm seeing is that the technical direction of football is going, European style.
Okay.
Because academy is taking, the space is taking every control because they want the players to play the European, style, so that when you go there you can be. But no, that is totally. Unacceptable to me, because if you are trained, if you have your style of football, and you are trained the way, our style of football, goes with even those we know that plays the quality, including myself.
So that's Mohamed Polo, the 1978 AFCON winner. So we should take his word serious, yes, if we want to get the game right. Yeah, that's it, Emefa.
Thank you, Musbah. We'll catch you on the Joy News Prime, on the Joy News channel. Well, the Regional Coordinating Council in the company of 3 municipal assemblies have evicted heavy truck drivers parked dangerously close to the Tema motorway. This is coming barely 24 hours after we aired the concerns of motorists and residents who were concerned. According to the drivers, they've been left with no option but to park there since the port will not accommodate them while they wait for documentation for their cargo. We'll hear from the Municipal Chief Executive of Ashaiman, but listen to my colleague Michael Ashali interacting with some of the drivers.
Heavy-duty trucks line up the shoulders of the highway, running as far as the eye can see. According to some of the drivers, they have no option than to park here while they wait for documentation for their cargo. Akwesi Techi is one of such drivers.
In the port, if you load, there is no place for you to park again, and our people still haven't ready yet.
Their presence here only exposes many motorists to untold danger, and some of the truck drivers even agree.
We know that we are disturbing, but we don't have any option.
While parked there, some drivers say they are harassed by some city authorities. Al Hassan Tahiru is a victim.
Just yesterday, they come. I wasn't inside the car. They just come and open my gate and they took my key.
But not everyone agrees with the drivers.
If they're not parked there, it's good because that place is causing big accidents.
He only gave his name as Nathaniel. He observed that the number of accidents around the toll booths have increased since the trucks started parking there.
We can hear now from the Municipal Chief Executive of Ashaiman, Albert Boachiotri, who says the Assembly will ensure the drivers don't return to the site.
So today, we embarked on a very serious action against them by getting all of them out of that place. And I can bet you, today marks the end of their parking in that place, those areas. But what we intend to do, we have just discovered some few areas around where we can properly organize them if really they have a reason to remain in town. Then
well, it's time for our Ghana Man series, and Kojo Yangson takes us to the princess town of Akatechi, not just to see crocodiles, but also encounter a priest who communicates with them. And that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of Newsnight. We have, there's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Personality Profile is up next, a continuation of that encounter with Dr. Charles Rekubube, aka Tarzan. Please stay for it.